All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the structures found within a typical animal cell, also known as a eukaryotic cell, the same cells that make up you and I. So, organelles, which you've heard in class before, are just like the cell's organs, and we'll define them even more specifically as specialized structures found within a cell. All of these kind of oddly shaped structures you see here inside this cross section of the animal cell, those are organelles. And each one of these organelles has a very, very specific job, similar to your organs. We're going to divide this animal cell into two parts. We're going to have the nucleus, which is this big centralized region where that really important nucleic acid known as DNA is kept. We're going to nickname it the control center of the cell. And then the other part of the animal cell, the eukaryotic cell, we're going to call the cytoplasm. And that's going to be the portion of the cell that's outside of the nucleus. Sorry if my picture here is covering that up, but that part is the part, all parts outside the nucleus. So we have the nucleus of the eukaryotic animal cell, and then everything outside of it, including all these organelles, we're going to lump together as this part called the cytoplasm. All right, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. This is going to be for your study purposes only. This is a eukaryotic cell, a very simplistic rendering with all organelles labeled. I believe there are 13 of them in total, and I'll have them laid out here for you. Again, this is easily accessible to you via the slides that you were to make a copy of. And we are going to go into each of these organelles individually, so don't worry about that. There's 14. There's the 14th. I missed it. All right, so let's start inside the eukaryotic animal cell. Let's start in the center of it, and we'll work our way out. The center of the eukaryotic animal cell is the nucleus, which you see pictured here. Again, we call the nucleus the control center of the cell because it houses DNA, and DNA, that special nucleic acid, controls just about everything life has to offer. However, the nucleus only contains most of the cell's DNA. We're going to find out there's another organelle somewhere outside the nucleus in that cytoplasm area that has a little bit of the cell's DNA in it as well. So this stringy stuff, this purpley stringy stuff in this cartoon on the right, that is the DNA inside of the larger nucleus. And we call DNA, when it's inside the nucleus, we call DNA chromosomes. That's the structure that we give to what DNA looks like inside the nucleus. It's that classic kind of X-shaped structure, right? The two little arms connected by this little dot in the middle. Those are we call chromosomes, and it's just DNA. For right now, just when I say chromosomes, think DNA. When I say DNA, think chromosomes. We'll specify later. And again, the DNA, what the DNA has, that nucleic acid has instructions for making proteins and other important molecules, but primarily proteins. So if we think back to Unit 2, this nucleic acid carries genetic information so that your cells can make proteins, another macromolecule. And the nucleus is surrounded by a nuclear membrane is what that says. Sorry folks, going from PowerPoint to Google Slides is not the most friendly. So this nuclear membrane is what we see here. Okay, this right here, the outside of our nucleus, that is the nuclear membrane. A protective barrier, if you will. Now, the nuclear membrane is a double membrane that is dotted with thousands of pores, and these pores allow things to get in and out of the nucleus because I know the nucleus is designed to protect the DNA, But if I'm being honest, there are still some molecules that must travel in and must travel out of the nucleus, and that's what these nuclear pores, these little studded dot looking things on the nuclear membrane, that's what they do. They allow things to enter and leave the nucleus. Now, there's this really dark spot in the middle. Very dark spot. Kind of looks like a bunch of chromosomes, right? All jumbled together, but it's not. It's a very dense central region inside the nucleus called the nucleolus. And we're going to talk just about what the nucleolus does. So here's another image of our nucleus. This is not an image of a cell. This is an image of a single nucleus within a cell, and we can see that big centralized region inside the nucleus called the nucleolus. We have our DNA all around the nucleolus, that important nucleic acid, and then we have the nucleus as a whole. Okay. As far as this endoplasmic reticulum, don't worry about that just yet. That's another organelle outside the nucleus that we're going to cover later. So the chromosomes are made of DNA and have two functions, right? The chromosomes, again, when I say chromosomes, you think DNA. When I say DNA, you think chromosomes. The two functions are to contain genetic information that we passed from one generation to the next. And we've heard that function of DNA all the way back since Unit 2 when we first learned about nucleic acids. And second, is to control the cell's activities. DNA is going to direct everything that happens inside the cell because DNA provides the blueprint for everything that happens inside the cell. And when you're inside the nucleus, you have this like semi-fluid, this kind of viscous fluid called the nucleoplasm. And that's just filling the empty space between chromosomes or DNA inside the nucleus, so it's not some hollow, dry shell. All right, folks, see you next one.